when you do give that positive feedback, don't just give that great job today,
No.
because actually that can have a counter effect on the people with imposter, because that will just pile on to that feeling that, oh, if you only knew.
I'm Hannah Saxmy, your leadership coach, and this podcast is your confidence boost in color. Let's go. Before we dive into today's conversation, I'd love to ask you for a small favor. If you enjoy this podcast, it really helps others to find it when you hit follow, leave a rating, or write a quick comment. And to all of you who are already sharing it, I'm really thankful. It truly means a lot to me. Thank you. In the previous episode, my talk with Beatrice Bexelius began around imposter syndrome, how it shows up in leadership and within ourselves. Today we will continue right where we left off, me announcing what I got as a score. So let's jump straight back in.
Before this episode, you actually sent over a form to me with a lot of questions.
Yes.
And a test to evaluate how much imposter syndrome it's in me.
Yes, that was the Clancy test that is sort of the most used in this area of research. And that was created by this Pauline Clancy. So did you do it?
Yes, I did.
Yes. Do you want to reveal your score?
Yes, the score I got, 42. So
Okay.
what does that reveal about me, about my imposter syndrome? As in this case, I answered the questions around how I'm as a business owner. I have my own company now. How much imposter syndrome is it in me?
Yes, actually, that score made me actually quite happy to hear, because what I can tell from that, just from getting the score, is that you feel quite confident in your role as for now. And I think that fits well because you have this podcast about confident leadership. So I think that you feel that you are in the right place, maybe. So actually, I would say that 42 is just about above the limit. In this research, we talk about scores from 41 and above, shows that there is imposter feelings happening from time to time, but that can then vary a lot from when it occurs and how you cope with that, etc. So I would say that 42 is just on the verge, right? And actually, in my research, I have seen that only 5 to 6% score below 30, which I have set as a limit for very, very low. So almost never have this challenge. So I would say 42, it's just above, but that doesn't mean too much. You are almost lower than 70% or something from my research. That corresponds quite well with previous research. So again, I would say that you feel quite confident in what you do. If I may add one small interpretation, I would say that maybe it affects that you are now your own manager, you have your own company, you don't have as many stakeholders to please. Because what I think now when I talk about it is that the imposter phenomenon is very much a social construct, that this is something that occurs when you measure yourself towards others and others' expectations. So maybe it helps you that you are actually not working with as many stakeholders now. I don't know. What is your take?
Yeah, it's more me, myself, and I.
Exactly. So are you
That's a
deceiving yourself?
conversation. But I can definitely relate in that sense, because decisions is taking instant in that sense, because I don't need to discuss it too much with someone else or such. I do that as well, just to ensure that I'm not drifting too much in either direction. So yes, I love this. I don't need to go 5 hierarchies to get a decision at this point. So that is a good thing. I think that from my perspective, where I see that since this, I have done all of the things that I'm doing in my company in other roles before, so to say, in other settings. So I know that I have that experience with me, but this is still a completely new area for me, and I'm in that sense all alone as well. So in that case, I feel a bit like, ooh, can be a bit scary sometimes. But let's figure it out. So I think that is also a part of it. Maybe I hope that the score will drop a bit, maybe next year.
Yeah, but I think you're good, Hannah. I think that it's almost, as I said, in the world we are living in, it's very difficult to go very low. So I think that you are good, and I think it helps you that, as you said now, that almost everything you do in your new company is things that you have done before. One construct that is often mentioned together with imposter phenomenon is something called self-efficacy. I don't know if you know that term.
No?
It means sort of that you have confidence that you can do a specific task. So you could have a high self-efficacy for one task, but then you could feel low self-confidence in other stuff. But now, as you said, when you said that things that you do are things that you have done before, that could actually mean that you feel confidence in each small task, which would then have a negative relationship with imposter phenomenon. So that is good for you.
Thank you. So that was coming. I believe myself that going into something that is completely new and scary, I try to think about that. It's not, I have done it so many times. So it's more like, let's figure it out in some way, and having like this growth mindset. What can I learn from this?
Exactly.
I'm now curious because I talked about that in the beginning, that since our project that we work together on, you have taken a leap into your creative dream. What have you learned during this transition, so to say, into being an author? What have you learned about your own imposter syndrome?
Yeah, right. I have learned that it exists. And actually, you mentioned that I have my own podcast in the writing area. And we actually made, me and Linda, we are co-hosting, and we made actually a whole episode about imposter phenomenon among writers, because that was something that I noticed immediately when I stepped into that context. Of course, this is something that I bear with me very closely because I am doing research on it, but still, I entered, there are lots of writers forums, and something I just was this types of comment that I'm not a real writer. I shouldn't call myself a writer. I didn't release a book yet, or I only released one book or two books or three books, or but I only did a fact book, or I only did a children's book, or it wasn't in a good publishing company. So there was like a myriad of explanations for why you weren't a real author. And I thought, oh dear, because we are all writing, right? And we are on different levels, and I would find myself comparing myself with someone, oh, she published 4 books a year and I have only published 1 book, for example. But then I realized, but she started 20 years ago when I started last year. So there are explanations. But I could see that this was a huge thing in the writer's world, that you really, really doubted yourself, thinking that you weren't a real writer. I thought that would, in some way, was similar to the imposter phenomenon, that you feel that you are only pretending to do something, but all the other ones are doing it for real and you are just the fake. So I definitely think that we have that there are common stuff. It doesn't have to be like, for example, financial stuff. Like it could also be feeling you are a writer.
So how do you sort of use this knowledge in some way now, so that you are balancing this in a better way and more focus on what you should do, writing books? How are you using this in your daily life as a writer?
But one thing is, just as we said before, to be aware of it, to think, okay, now I'm thinking this because I'm really, to be honest, I'm scared of failure. I'm scared to put myself out there and then not be published, for example. I'm scared of getting rejections. I'm scared of someone writing something better than me. So those are the feelings that I am handling now, for example. And that might make me want to procrastinate, as, okay, I will write tomorrow. And then it will never happen. So one thing is just, discipline and self-coaching. Okay, this is what you feel, but your overall goal is to finish this book. So now you're going to stick to your plan, which is sit on that chair for 1 hour or whatever and write. And it doesn't matter if it is 2 words or if it is 2 chapters. Just do something so that when you leave this desk, you have come a little bit further than when you originally sat down. So that is one thing. And then the other thing, I don't know if it is related at all, but I like to mention it, Anna, is something I say to myself, and I have said this to myself ever since I started my master studies, as you mentioned also, when I definitely felt like an imposter and that I didn't know what I was doing and everyone was so smart but me. But also when I was to write my thesis, right, in the end. But I said to myself, every time I felt, oh my God, I'm going to cry and give up, I can't do this. I said to myself, but Beatrice, there are thousands of people every year who are doing exactly what you are doing now, and they do graduate. What is the actual statistical likability that all of them are smarter than you? It's very, very low, right? So you can do it because they can. So this is something that I don't know if it's true or not, but this is something that I kept telling myself to do, that to continue on my journey to finally reach the goal. And what I want to say with that is find something that you can truly believe in that will make a difference for yourself. And repeat that to yourself in these difficult situations, because it's all there is. You have to do it. It's discipline. You have to just go through whatever you need to do to reach that goal.
Yeah, I think that is a really good examples to use. And I listened to the podcast you published right after summer, where you also talked about success stories. And those success stories you talked about there, it was sometimes, for me, since I'm not that into that world of writing, when I listened to them, I heard that you used examples where the success actually took a long time for someone to get published, etc. So they had been working many years and tried many times before they actually got the book published. But later on, that made them to really get a boost later on instead.
Exactly.
I believe that having those kind of success stories to say that, okay, it's okay that it's taking long time, but I'm getting there. There are so many others that have success.
Yes, and also that so-called failure is a part of the journey. It's not that, oh no, I didn't succeed this time, so I'm a failure. It's just that, oh, now I have passed that step of the journey, so now I'm one step closer. And there will be many sort of non-successes on the way. I think I once saw like a picture on Instagram. I think it was very good. It was a person on a stage juggling plates and getting applause, and he was a star on this. But then you can see from behind that leading up to that stage was a long stairway, and on each step on that stairway was cracked plates that he had dropped, of course. This was just a drawing, so it's just fiction, but still. And I think that is a very good illustration of what success really is, that you get up, you try, you get up, you try, you get up and try, and in the end, you will have some sort of skill.
And coming back to like where we started, like take that a manager taking decisions, that there is like this imposter syndrome there. I myself often reevaluate, so say, decisions I have made in the past that has been like those really become really big decisions later on that I realized after a while that those were so. And then some decisions I have felt like, okay, they led me somewhere that maybe was tough and hard, etc. And my curious ask to myself then was, would I have taken another decision at that point? What would that have led? You always think about what would be the difference.
Yeah.
But often I come to the conclusion, or I would say all the time, that based on what I knew at that moment, what type of information I had, etc., I couldn't have taken another type of decision at that moment, because things that I have learned now during the way, yes, that may have affected how I would have taken it. It's new information, so I couldn't have made that type of decision earlier on. So by that, I also can be more comfortable that I'm taking the right decision based on what I know at this point. And then I can reevaluate, of course, and adjust if I want with new facts.
To me, that sounds perfect. I think that is like the ultimate example of being kind to yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that you need to be a friend, your best friend in some way.
Exactly.
So not saying that you always need to agree with yourself on all.
No,
But-
but to realize what you said, that you do the best of what you have. And that is
Yeah.
one thing. I think that was a very, very, very lovely example.
Mm.
But then also, I think what you also mentioned was to have that confidence again, that you live your life and you learn, because I completely agree with this, that things tends to work out as long as you make some sort of decision, as long as you take another step. Things
Yeah.
will work out.
Since this is a podcast about confident leadership in that sense, so how would you define confidence from your perspective?
Yes, again, very good question with many answers if you would like. But if I'm just going to pick one answer, I'm going to also choose one that is applicable both in your professional life and your personal life. To me, confidence is to know that you are good and enough, and that your growth is only depending on what you will achieve and want to achieve. So that means that you don't have to grow by putting others down. I have this example that I often use, that if we have two people standing beside each other and you for some reason feel the need to exceed, then you should do that with your own efforts and exceed, not by staying at your same level, but putting someone else down to get that gap. So for me, confidence is to feel good about yourself still when you see other people maybe grow. If you are used to standing side by side to a colleague or a friend or a sister or whatever, and that person suddenly starts to grow, that won't trigger bitterness or stress or anxiety or competitiveness in a negative way in you, and you want to take that person down so everything can be as it always is, right? But it is to be able to just stand beside and watch that person grow and feel that that is okay, that is good for that person, and you still remain with your same worth. And it's in your hand. You can choose to grow or you can choose to be the same. It doesn't matter. Let that person grow. And even so, as a leader, you don't have to be the one always in the front receiving all the appraisal. You can stay confident knowing that person did a good job, maybe with the help from you, maybe with advice from you, maybe you was the one who discover that person as a raw talent, maybe you didn't have any contribution at all, but let that person have that light, that shine, and still feel that you have the same worth. That is for me confidence.
Really good explanation. I like it a lot, and I think that getting others to really shine their light and get them to be boosted, that will also make that you will grow in a beautiful way.
Yeah, and I mentioned this now, Hannah, because I think that this is something that, if we're going back to organization, I think this is something that would boost an organization in a very positive way if we could foster that type of atmosphere or mindset, to feel the confidence to let other grow, knowing that I will grow on my own terms. I don't have to put people down to feel that I am above them.
Totally agree. And it's so important in an organization setting that you have this psychological safety. By putting people down, you will completely erode that trust. But having more this mindset of, wow, I applaud you that you made this step now, and I'm happy for you, that will also, I believe, bring in more of this safety around. And I would say that those leaders, the managers I have had that has been my favorite ones, is those that has been really good at this. They have been there applauding when it's gone well, and also, so to say, not taking credit for it.
Yeah.
When something went wrong, they have more stepped forward and helped me in that sense to say that it's okay. I will stand here and take some of the hits right now so you can stand up again and help by that way. And that has created that psychological safety environment to try something new and dare to do it again.
Yeah, that's great leadership.
Having more of that in the organization, I believe that the organization will actually move really fast forward.
Yes, because to end where we started, that will foster people the transparency that is needed to not have this imposter feeling when you feel like you can't move. even.
I'm thinking that we are starting to close down for today. It has really been an interesting conversation, and I'm so happy that you have been here, Beatrice, and sharing all of this. Maybe I can invite you later on again back here.
Please do. It was super nice to sit here and chat with you, Hannah, about my favorite topics.
Exactly.
Or some of my favorite topics.
Yeah, exactly. You have so much to talk about. Now the listeners go into the week. What should we send with them so that they feel really boosted, that they can be more confident in themselves and take much faster and stronger decisions by that?
Yeah, but I think maybe just we can reuse things that we have already said. So I think one thing that you said very well was about being kind to yourself. So I think to remember that you do the best of what you have at this moment and feel calm in that. So you don't have to lay waken in the night like, oh, I should have done like this, I should have done like that. I mean, you did what you did. At least you did something, right? At least you did take a step, and then let's see what that will bring. So that is one thing. Be kind to yourself and accept that you did what you could with what you had. That is one thing. And then I think we could also mention again this: you don't have to be a superhero. So you can lift that heavy weight off your shoulder. You don't have to go into your office every day with a superhero suit. I can actually mention, just I think it was yesterday, maybe the day before yesterday, I was on Teams with a colleague that I have known for many years as well, and he has also a very senior role. And I could just see when we opened the meeting and I saw his face, I was like, oh, I realized he have been looking so serious the last times I've spoken to him. So I said that, how are you feeling? You look so serious. And he was like, oh, no, sorry. No, it doesn't matter. But then we started to talk a bit, and I mentioned these imposter feelings that might weigh on you. And he was like, oh, and during the conversation, he Googled and he was, oh, I found a lot of information here. I will read this. And he was like, oh, thank you so much for telling me about this. And I don't know if he felt that applied to him or if it just was interesting reading. But I mean that I think that it's always nice to hear about I'm not alone. More people struggle with the same feelings that I have. It's not only me who feels that I'm walking in these huge shoes. It's not only me who feels that I'm running after a speed car each day at work, etc. So you don't have to wear that superhero dress. You can just take that off, sit down, ask someone what is expected by me. Who will help me?
Yeah, and I think I would then send in if you are like a manager or so having a team around you, boost them to really go to them each day and give them credit for what they are doing. Like, I see this in you. I see this, what you're doing here. It's really perfect. That helps us going forward, etc. So that I notice it, giving out a lot of those praises.
Yes.
Constantly, that I believe also will help them to see that, oh, what I'm doing is actually good.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But then I want to build on to that one, Hannah. That is very good. When you do give that positive feedback, don't just give that great job today,
No.
because actually that can have a counter effect on the people with imposter, because that will just pile on to that feeling that, oh, if you only knew. So it's better to say to them, I saw that Excel report you did. It was excellent in the detailing. Or I noticed that you took that difficult conversation with your employee, and it was very brave of you to do that, or whatever you want to acknowledge. So do go to the specifics. And I know that this is common advice in leadership, but still it really applies here. So don't just say, great job today, guys.
Good clarification. I think that is, and that means that you have seen it and you are really noticing it. That will make a difference. So,
Yes.
So thank you, Beatrice, for being here and discussing this. Yeah, I've learned a lot. That's what I like with this podcast, having people around me that really are great and curious people that can show it from so many different angles. So thank you so much, and good luck with your future books now, editing the final round. Looking forward to read that too. Let's see when we will talk next time.
Yes, hopefully not too long.
Exactly.
Bye.
Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this conversation with Beatrice Bexelius. I hope it's given you new reflections on imposter syndrome and what it means in both self-leadership and leadership. From now on, new episodes of Confident Leadership in Color will be released every Wednesday, Central European Time. So make sure to hit follow so you don't miss what's next. You'll find contact details for both me and Beatrice in the show notes. And if you feel it's time to sharpen your toolbox for how you lead yourself and others to feel more resourceful and let those imposter thoughts just fly by instead of draining your strength, well, that's exactly what I help my clients with in my coaching work. So let's connect and continue the conversation. Thank you for being here, and I see you again already next Wednesday. Until then, be confident, be you.
Confidence starts inside of you.